Stop scrolling, because this story will leave you speechless. Imagine going to the park with your child, only to be surrounded by cops accusing you of suspicious behavior. Now imagine those same cops suddenly realizing you're not just any single mom, you're a highly trained FBI agent. Stick around, because what happened next will blow your mind, and if you love powerful real-life style stories that flip the script, don't forget to hit that subscribe and follow button for more. It was a crisp Saturday afternoon, the kind of day when the air feels lighter, children's laughter floats like music, and the golden rays of sunlight peek through tall oak branches in the city park. And for Jasmine Carter, a proud single black mother raising her 9-year-old son Malik, this was supposed to be a peaceful break from the endless demands of her double life, one as a devoted parent, and the other as a highly decorated FBI agent with years of undercover work, counterterrorism operations, and criminal investigations behind her, though almost no one in her neighborhood knew of her secret professional identity, because to them she was just Jasmine, the woman who worked long hours and kept to herself. But today, dressed simply in jeans, sneakers, and a comfortable hoodie, sitting on a park bench while Malik ran across the playground with a bright red football tucked under his arm, she was only a mom enjoying a simple joy. Yet as the minutes ticked by, she noticed something subtle, a pair of local police cruisers slowly circling the lot, officers glancing over at her, whispering into radios, and then pulling up nearby with a sense of deliberate intention, and before she could even call Malik back, 2 uniformed officers stepped out, their hands resting on their belts, eyes scanning her like she was a suspect, and one of them barked, "Ma'am, we need to ask what you're doing here," in a tone that was more accusation than inquiry, and Jasmine, taken aback, calmly replied, "I'm just here with my son, like everyone else," but the officer pressed, saying, "We got a call about suspicious activity in the park, and you fit the description," which made her heart tighten with the familiar sting of racial profiling, though she steadied her voice and asked, "Suspicious? Sitting on a bench watching my child play." But they didn't answer directly, instead demanding identification, circling her like she was some sort of criminal, and Malik, noticing the confrontation, ran back, his small voice trembling as he asked, "Mom, are you in trouble?" Which only deepened the ache in her chest, because she had spent her whole life trying to protect him from exactly this type of moment, where innocence collided with prejudice, but she knew she couldn't let her emotions control her. So she calmly handed over her ID, keeping her tone level, and as the officers scrutinized it, she asked, "Is this really necessary? What crime do you think I'm committing here?" But they deflected, muttering about needing to check things out, and when one of them stepped closer, Malik instinctively hugged her leg, whispering, "Mom, let's go home." And that was when Jasmine's patience began to run thin, because she had endured enough baseless suspicion in her lifetime, and though she didn't want to escalate, she also knew she couldn't allow them to intimidate her son into thinking his mother was powerless, so with a measured breath, she stood taller and said, "Officers, you need to be very careful about how you proceed right now," and one of them smirked, clearly dismissive, replying, "Or what, ma'am?" Which was the exact moment she made the decision to pull back her hoodie just enough to reveal the leather case clipped at her waist, flipping it open with precision to display the unmistakable gold badge and ID card of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the silence that followed was deafening, as both officers froze, eyes widening, their authority suddenly stripped away in the span of a heartbeat, and Jasmine's voice, calm yet commanding, cut through the tension as she said, "Special Agent Jasmine Carter, FBI Counterterrorism Division. And right now, you're harassing a federal agent and terrifying her child in public, all without probable cause. Do you have any idea what kind of mistake you've just made?" And the younger officer's face flushed crimson as he stammered, We didn't know," but Jasmine didn't let him finish, because she wasn't finished making her point, instead stepping forward with a controlled fire in her eyes, saying, "That's exactly the problem. You assumed, you profiled, you acted without facts, and now my son has to stand here wondering why his mom, who works harder than anyone to keep this country safe, is being treated like she doesn't belong in her own community." And by now, a crowd had gathered, parents who had watched uneasily from the playground beginning to murmur, their gazes shifting from the officers to Jasmine, realizing the injustice unfolding before them, and one mother even stepped forward, saying loudly, "She was just sitting there with her kid. I saw the whole thing," which only added to the officer's embarrassment, and Malik, still holding onto Jasmine's hand, looked up at her with wide eyes, whispering, "You showed them, Mom." And that small, trembling voice reminded her why she had to handle this moment not just with anger, but with grace, because every child watching needed to see that dignity and truth could triumph over prejudice. So she softened her tone just enough to say, "Officers, I hope this teaches you something about assumptions. The next time you think someone looks suspicious, maybe ask yourself what bias you're carrying before you act on it, because you could be humiliating an innocent parent, or worse, scarring a child." And though her words cut deep, they were laced with the type of quiet authority that couldn't be ignored, and the officers, now visibly ashamed, mumbled apologies, retreating toward their cruisers under the weight of dozens of disapproving stares from the park goers, and Jasmine, still holding her son close, felt a strange mix of exhaustion and pride, because while she had faced down hardened criminals and terrorists in her career, it was these small, personal battles, fighting for respect, for justice in everyday spaces, that felt the most significant. And as the crowd dispersed, a father with 2 daughters stopped to tell her, "Thank you for standing up, not just for yourself, but for all of us who've seen this happen too many times." And Jasmine nodded, humbled, replying simply, "We all deserve better," before finally turning back to Malik, kneeling to meet his eyes and saying softly, "Never forget this, baby. Your mom isn't just strong because of her badge, but because she knows who she is, and no one can take that away." And Malik, his fear replaced with pride, hugged her tightly, whispering, "You're my hero, Mom," words that carried more weight than any professional accolade she had ever received. And as they walked hand in hand back toward their car, the sun still shining, the park once again filled with laughter, Jasmine knew that while the world was far from perfect, she had just planted a seed of change in that small corner of it, and for her, that was victory enough.